Welcome to Multiverse Mapping Live. This is live strategy consulting with real stakes. One real person, one real business challenge, and a bunch of people sticking around to watch for an hour. We've edited that hour down so that you get to watch the key breakthrough moments. You'll get to watch a real painkiller versus vitamin problem get solved live. What you'll see us using is a method called multiverse mapping. We tell the story of one person finding something, choosing it, using it, and getting the value. It's a simple concept, but when we use this to dig into the details, patterns emerge that most people seem to miss. Now, if you've got a strategic challenge that you'd like us to tackle live, we're looking for our next volunteer. Details at the end. But for now, let's meet Pragati. She was brave enough to put her challenge on the table first of all. She's going to introduce her business and then we're going to see what we discovered.
I have actually created a working method called Proof Sprint. And the idea behind that is to turn like fuzzy project ideas into, something like, we need to improve customer experience into something that is a fundable project or, a firm decision. So I have the method. I've been working in this field for about 15 years. What I'm looking to do now is really build the powerful business around it. So that I'm looking for like, what's my strategic advantage? Like, how do I build a business around this idea that I have created? So that's where I'm starting from. Does that help, Tom?
That helps a lot. So I think you mentioned you've got a couple of bigger questions, which are like, yeah, what is the business you can build around this? You said, but there was a specific question, which was, should this be around the question of building something for leaders to decide what to fund or to help the teams decide what to build?
Basically, this method I feel can be applied at different altitudes, like at different points in a project. So I'm really like, those are the bigger paths that I'm looking towards. So I have sort of like a mini path mapped out for both ideas, but really, yes, that's the difference. Like, do I build a business around applying it to understanding what projects to fund versus what to actually build? So again, as I said, same method, but applies at different altitudes and different levels in the project.
I love it. I mean, straight away, I'm recognizing that same question. You're thinking, am I selling to C-suite types who are trying to decide where to allocate the resources, or am I selling to team leads and team situations who have been given sort of jobs to do and are trying to now execute? Um, recognize that very well myself, and it's an interesting challenge. So what I tend to do is then start mapping out for one of them, and then we'll see what happens. We're just going to start mapping, and this is going to be very much a representation of what it's like. So it's going to be messy, it's going to involve backtracking, and some things might emerge that surprise Pragati. They'll certainly emerge that surprise me, and we'll see what happens. I realize there's something that I use really frequently at this stage, and this is four forces, which if you know Bob Moester's work and jobs to be done type stuff, four forces is probably quite familiar. But we're going to put that in at the point where they are choosing it. And based on what you know at the moment, we're going to fill in these gaps and see what you think is going on. So, what's their dissatisfaction with the current way they're doing things? That they're reaching out to you because they're not satisfied at the moment. And they're also being pulled towards the hope of what you're offering, what you're promising. And that's exciting for them. But of course, they're also being held back by inertia. There's friction and there's habit and there's all sorts of stuff they're going to have to do. Don't like that. And they're also going to have anxiety. They're worried that they could go ahead with this and there's risk. They're going to end up looking a fool, or it'll cost too much money, or take too long, etc., etc. There's a fifth hidden one, which I'm going to add in two, which is why now. So, what is the trigger? I have to make that decision. So, let's go for it. What do you think? What are they dissatisfied with at the moment?
I think for them, they have a lot of projects that are basically the competing priorities that are going on, and they need a better way of determining what to fund and what not to fund. I think there's just when you're working in ops, there's just you have like a top 20 list, which is not doable and it's not sustainable for teams as well. So they really need it, and it's like a constant cycle where you have more projects coming in than you're able to even put on the roadmap. So you need a better way to say, like, this bet, if I bet on this project, this is going to be successful and this will give me the ROI that I need. But a lot of times that amount of work is often not done upfront. We almost like wait until things get delivered to figure out that if we got ROI or not. That tends to be the normal way of doing things.
Are they dissatisfied with that? Are they fed up with not knowing the ROI up front?
Yeah, because it's one, the chaos of prioritization. We do some ROI at the beginning, but we don't really nail down all of the things that are going to signal whether this is going to be successful for us or not. There's a general tendency, which is a little different from the product world, where we kind of build out the entire project and we do phasing and whatnot, and then kind of look back and see if it was successful or not at the end of the project. So everybody kind of understands that this work needs to be done upfront, but there is no almost precise way to determine that. And they need help determining which projects we need to approach or which bets to take. Basically, that's the main dissatisfaction.
Cool. So do they literally say, I need help determining what projects to fund? Or do
They
you
say,
think they need help determining what projects to fund?
I think I say that for them, it's like I need to determine my priorities or I need to determine my roadmap, say, because
Cool.
we do a lot of roadmap revisits every quarter, every couple of months. And changing priorities that quickly, especially in a bigger org, has consequences downstream where you're constantly doing rework or throwing stuff away that you built, which is no longer a priority. So there's a lot of rework that happens at the end. That is not something they kind of think about upfront, but at the end of the day, because you end up doing so much rework, it adds to your budget, it adds to your timeline. So you will get impacted.
Okay.
Dissatisfaction from.
Got it. And then the hope. What's the promise of the new way? What gets
The,
their eyes to light up?
yeah. So the hope is that there is a better way to kind of think about the competing priorities, plan out these projects in a more sustainable manner, not just for their team, also for IT, and also kind of have this vision and proper business case upfront to present to finance for proper funding. Just in general, be prepared for a bigger project because a lot of the projects that I work on are anywhere from 3 months to 2 and 3 years long. So the timeline is pretty huge for actually seeing any end result. So you need to be prepared. As much as we talk about agile and working in agile manner, like a lot of these projects need a lot of upfront planning.
Yeah,
So this is better upfront planning.
cool. Good. I'm immediately thinking about the book How Big Things Get Done, which we waxed
Mm,
lyric about in the podcast.
yes, great.
Marvelous. That's good. Okay. So a lot of this is about, hey, I'm sitting now in the shoes of this VP of Ops and going, right, we need to do some upfront planning, but this sounds like you're giving me more work. So I'm guessing that some of the inertia, the friction holding back is I don't have any time already.
They're trying to, it's like a lot of times in ops, they will say like the foundations are already broken, like you're trying to dream really big about these massive business transformations. But a lot of the ground reality, the systems and the processes are already broken. So while you're trying to prioritize the bigger picture and doing really groundbreaking stuff, you're stuck with the things that are happening today. So a lot of the inertia actually comes from that. Should I go for the big thing? Should I just stay small and fix these small little things? The habit is more around just the general culture of the organization, like how they do prioritization. Some people will say, well, pull out the Moscow gun and be like, there you go, this is a must. And it could, at any level of abstraction, they'll go ahead and apply that. So a lot of that is just like the culture and the way they have already worked in that just keeps them, okay, well, it's sort of working. If it's not broken, why fix it? That kind of mentality.
Yeah, I mean, they can go like that for years.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
is there, have you seen any sort of triggers, moments that people come to with like, that is it, this is my F that moment, it is time?
when a project goes really, really bad. For example, when you have just invested millions of dollars in licensing fee for an app that gets close to zero adoption when it goes live, and you try to train and retrain the team for months on end, but still nobody uses that app. And a year or two later, you're about to renew a license and you're trying to figure out if you should renew, and if not, then what should you do? Like just rip it apart and throw away the $5 million you spent in licensing fees in the last 2 years. So that sort of thing really hurts at that time. So
Yes.
not only are you thinking about this project, but you're thinking about your investments in all other projects and whether you should do more upfront planning. Because in this particular case, we found that it wasn't just like the change management was so bad right from the beginning that it's just the signs were there, but sometimes when a sponsor is championing a cause or championing an app, they must have it. So it
Yeah.
was one of those situations. So
Yeah.
yeah, when you've been burnt, then it's a
And I mean, was the sponsor still there, or had the sponsor who championed that app now moved on?
they have moved on.
Yes.
That's always nice and comfy.
I mean, that's another trigger that makes it possible to question.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I'm seeing something here that feels like it's probably relevant. It's coming time to renew the license. We're going to have to spend money. We can't keep ignoring it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about their anxiety? Why are they going to be worried? What are they worried is going to go wrong for them if they adopt your new way of working?
I think the first thing on their minds would be, okay, this is going to be a lot more work than I'm used to doing at the beginning of a project or planning a project. It's just that they already do these things, but they just do it at different points in a project and do some of these
Yeah.
activities until they're too late. But again, it's like concerns. We've been doing it this way. Yeah, it's not working, but our team is used to this. And then if I bring a new way of doing things for even analyzing which projects to fund, it's just going to be more work for me. It's going to be more work for my team. Everything will take longer. Because every planning is often seen as taking longer than getting something in the hands of delivery right now. So I can't
Yeah.
pick up a project and say, we need to do this, go ahead and install the app and be done with it, right? So now you are
Yeah.
taking back and saying, think about it. Do
It
you
feels
want?
good to break ground and start moving.
Yeah,
So you're fighting against that. So are they right? It's going to take longer. It's going to take more work.
it will take longer at the beginning, or it will feel longer, definitely. But a lot of the work that I do, which I think should happen at the beginning, is spread out across the spectrum, across the project. And some things that if we do them later, for example, analyzing your change appetite, for example, for whatever you're building, that always happens after you've given requirements and whatnot, and later realize there's no change appetite within your team to actually absorb that new app or new change that you're trying to implement, then you're back to square one pretty much, right? If you ask that question at the beginning, which is what like my method teaches you to do, you will be so far ahead in the game than trying to do this at the end where you're like, oh, okay, we install this app, but no one's going to use it. So all of that time, money, resources that you have spent is already gone. But sometimes they don't see that at the beginning. It's more about we need to have this big vision, because for a lot of executives, it's about what kind of change did you bring on? What transformational things happened while you were at the helm? Whether or not that finally has adoption or is useful or contributes to the revenue, sometimes is not in the picture at the beginning.
Yeah.
So I think there might also be anxiety about just like if there's a very highly paid person who's saying like, I need this, but we do the analysis and say this is not a good time to do this, or pivot and do something else. Obviously, they may not like it. So it's definitely that.
Yeah. I mean, quick show of hands from everyone here. Have you come across that sort of thing? A situation where it's quite clear that a project is going to fail, but you can't really tell people that because it's not safe.
I mean, can I just interject? A guy called Bill Livingston, who was a great consultant, he called it end of project mismatch disaster.
So yeah, just to sort of step back a meta layer, can everyone see like what I'm doing here and see how it's sort of starting to flesh stuff out? The thing that is making my spidey sense go off is it doesn't feel like that your new way is promising like a feeling of more comfort and control. It's promising more work and more overhead. And once you've been there and you've tried it, then you have a smooth, lovely project, or you get to not do the horror projects at all. But if you haven't experienced that, it can be very hard to understand what the value is.
I believe in it passionately, but it's obviously I have to convince the person who's been doing things a different way. So for
Yeah.
me, my work is like a painkiller or a pain pill, but for them, it feels like a vitamin. It's like take it. If I take it, it's an extra. It's great. It will just be seen as a vitamin and not a painkiller. So that's definitely something that I'm struggling with in terms of positioning and selling this service.
Yeah, and I'd challenge you there and say if your customer doesn't perceive it as a painkiller, then it's not a painkiller. So we know we're going to save you pain, but they're not feeling any pain at the point where they come to you, and unless they've got this pain, which is the, oh my God, are we really going to put another 2 million into this thing? We can't do that. So is there a way that we can turn this round, or do we have to kill it?
Yeah, there's definitely, I've actually explored that path, whether focusing on not just almost like a recovery service to say, okay, you're already in the middle of a bad project or you've invested X amount and now you need to invest more. Should you do it? Make that a positioning so that feels a little bit more immediate pain versus saying, oh, you're starting a new project. And so I feel like I need to niche it a little bit more to say, I'm going to help you with this very specific painful urgent decision that you said.
Yeah.
So that's one path that this is telling me to take. The other one is pull the plug by myself and say, let's not even do this or don't go down this path.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's sort of it's the challenge of using your own method on your own thing is
Yeah.
it never works. You try, but it's too close. So what I'm doing now is starting to break down, say, look, I think this is a key point. As you said, you've been sort of worrying about this, noodling about this. It came out naturally here in just sort of thinking, this sounds like more work and it might make our lives a bit better, but actually we're used to this. This is comfortable. It's bad, but you know what? It's a bad that everybody knows. And the stuff over here looks like more work for me, more work for my team. Everything takes longer when we already don't have time. And if the hippo says they need it, we can't say no anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are things that have been on my mind, but I think just having you do this work, that area is standing out, especially even spatially, if you look at it, you're talking about so much dissatisfaction, inertia, and anxiety around this piece. And then the new way is not giving me that much hope. Just looking at the number of stickies we have going around there.
The number of stickies, and it's basically saying you should stress test before you invest. Yeah, I know, but that sounds like work. You'll be able to plan out projects in a more sustainable manner. Woohoo! So exciting. It's yeah. What if you think back to say one of your customers, like how does it transform them into someone who is way more awesome in their role in their life?
I think for one of the people who for whom this was very, very successful. So they did a workshop with me, and within we had just started the workshop, and just through my process, within 30 minutes, using just one tool, they just said, we're not even this group is not even talking about the same problems. We don't even understand the true problem. So just bin this whole idea completely. So it was supposed to be a 3-hour workshop. We were supposed to get down and really understand the challenge. But within 30 minutes, they were like, that's it. This is not a thing we're doing because everybody's on a different page. We just have too varied an understanding of the problem, or we don't even have that. So they actually been the project even within 30 minutes. So that for me was the most successful, or I guess they got the ROI because they were about to invest a couple of 100,000 in that particular project.
Cool.
And I had another one which was pretty similar, where we got to the point where we were talking about options, and I presented it to them in a way that made sense. And within an hour, they were able to decide that we're not going to invest in any more technology, at least for the next 1 year. We are just going to rely on manual effort because that made sense for their project context at that. So they saved about $1 million in investment in that particular year in new tech.
Right.
But again, I mean, these are stories I could tell, but you could also say, if you haven't worked in that way, you wouldn't experience it until you do. But then I don't think there's a lot of inertia to say, oh, to get this service just specifically for that.
Yeah. Well, or is there? Because putting myself back in the shoes of this VP type person, I have got various sponsors and stakeholders coming to me with stuff that is urgent and needs to be done. And I've got loads of people on the teams telling me there's all sorts of stuff that needs to be done. And I can't do all of it. And what I need more than anything is a way to be able to decisively kill the stuff and have an external consultant and a recognizedly sort of rigorous process which gives me that ability to say no. So is what you're really selling the ability to say no and be celebrated for it? Because that's what I'm seeing here. You saved $1 million by not doing the technical stuff that I bet there was a huge group of people in the company saying, we really, really need to do this. And here, save 200K because there's a load of people saying that we need to do this solution. And when you start tugging at it, you realize this is a solution looking for a problem. Everybody thinks it's going to solve something different, personal, and it's not going to work.
You know what's interesting? I think I've worked at 15 years as a business analyst. I have actually closed down more projects than I've actually worked on because of this. And for a very long time in one of the orgs that I worked in, I was assigned to projects just so I could basically end them in a way. So close down the projects. Yes. That was my specialty as a BA.
Yeah.
I think somebody has a question. Chada asks, do you bring no or do you bring focus?
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
I'd like to say, I mean, the way I've been positioning it, I would say I bring the focus. But I think at the end of the day, a lot of times, if I look back at my history, what I was just sharing was I think I brought a lot of no. So my experience says no. I think my positioning says focus for now. That's a good thing for me to think about.
Yeah, I think just in time we got to something that's actually really important. I love this, Harry. Amazing. Yeah, you offer the safety to say no.
Yes. And there was quite a bit of a reputational impact for one of the individuals that I worked with, where we were actually able to close the project, the 30-minute one. So they received a lot of, they had a lot of reputational advantages because of that one incident. They told me that.
Amazing. And that's all we had time for. So what you just saw there was multiverse mapping in action. We told one customer's story to uncover where Pragati's strategy was getting stuck. What you saw was really just the surface layer. The full method involves doing a bit more diagnosis, but then it goes on to designing experiments and probes to test different ideas, gather evidence, define metrics so you can understand what actually matters, and feed all that back into the map that you're making. If you want to learn the complete method, there's a full course available at multiversemapping.com. Link in the description. Or maybe you'd like to learn by being in the hot seat yourself. We're looking for people with real strategic challenges to join us for future live sessions. You get free consulting, we get great content. Fair trade. Or if you've got a challenge but prefer to keep it private, we also work with clients one-on-one. Whether you want to volunteer for the hot seat, learn the method, or work with us privately, just drop us a line at hello@crownandreach.com. We'd love to hear what you're working on. For now, thank you so much for watching our first experiment in live strategy. If you enjoyed it, hit subscribe. We're planning more of these and we'd love to make sure that you can see them.
I want to say a massive thank you to Pragati for being up for this. That was
Hell yeah.
amazing. Thank you so much. I found it really interesting. Hopefully others did too.
Yes, it was great, as always, Tom.
Thanks. The thing which, like, I find, this is just what I do all day at work. So how interesting can it be? If you enjoyed it, then I'm delighted.